I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, woo, okay.
Why not?
Why not?
She doesn't have the stamina.
I'm going to be blamed for everything. As soon as he travels, there's something he's hiding.
You decided to stay home, and that's okay.
He should not have his fingers anywhere near me.
I know I titled this rant as being about getting people on the right side of the political spectrum and people on the left side of it to love each other. But I'm not trying to marry them off. They're at each other's throats enough as it is. What I'm trying to achieve is to get people on both sides of the political divide to respect each other's views and thus increase the likelihood of their resolving their differences. Hi, my name is Bill Cutler, and I'm not so arrogant as to believe that this rant is going to solve the world's differences. But maybe, just maybe, I, or more likely someone else, will be able to get a conversation, a real conversation started about the art of compromise. Right now, in the United States, for example, the art of compromise is as dormant as my sex life, but has a better chance of recovery. Americans in the era of Obama and Trump are so divided along political lines and so up in arms, in some cases literally, that some political pundits are saying that the idea of a second U.S. Civil War cannot be easily dismissed. Don't laugh. That's how most wars start. Disagreement turns into rancor, and then rancor becomes violent. We are all born with a latent ability to compromise, which reaches its maturity when we become adults. However, by that time, a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum have dug in their heels and refused to compromise. In politics, the result is a never-ending alternation of right and left-wing governments, each one reveling in its power to change policies and actions to their complete satisfaction, without any concessions to the other side. The other side, whichever one it is, then does everything to joyfully discredit and democratically bring down the hated government, which inevitably helps things along with the usual scandals, blunders, and missteps of high office. What we should instead be doing is reaching out to each other, first by gauging exactly how far away other people's views are from ours on the political spectrum. What are other people's beliefs, their goals in life, their preferred social and economic infrastructures? Second, find where the midpoint lies between opposing outlooks, whether or not either side is initially willing to go there. Third, each side must decide what their core needs are, what they cannot or will not give up. Last, and this is the hard part, but it can be done, be willing to give up those wants that are not at the core of our being, but are for people with opposing views. Let me give you 3 examples of how I, as a middle-of-the-road person with both liberal and conservative leanings, would compromise in these situations. On climate control and health standards, give the right-wingers what they want, namely very few, very basic regulations, like toxic industrial effluents cannot be dumped in waterways or disposed of uncontained. Trying to get more regulations in this area is a cause that will not be won before the human race kills itself off. Instead, get the right-wingers to trade for reduced regulations by allowing governments to offer major incentives to promote the adoption and advancement of green practices and technology. That process is already underway, and President Trump's rejection of the Paris Climate Control Accord is not going to stop it. As its concession for the relaxing of regulations, the political right must agree to support the accelerated development of sources of renewable energy, as well as the enhancing of green economy incentives. One of these incentives I would like to see would be a no-brainer for the political right. Give new companies in this field a complete tax holiday of 5 years, each of which can be used at any time in its life cycle. For companies that have been labeled as polluters and who shift to green technology, give them 7 years of tax holidays. They can use it at any time, but only for their spin-off green operations.
This way, new industries and new jobs are created. As the right-wingers like to say, these benefits for corporations will inevitably have trickle-down benefits as jobs for individuals and protection for the environment. And if there's one thing the elite 1% like to do, it's trickle down on the rest of us.
I'm now going to take my life in my hands by moving on to the second example. Abortion and the right to life. It would seem there's no hope at all here for compromise. Well, it's a little drastic, but maybe there is an answer. Right-wingers do not like being told what they can or cannot do by a slew of governments at all levels, so let's use that. Take laws regarding abortion completely out of the jurisdiction of federal and state or provincial governments. Let each city, town, borough, or parish decide what it wants to do. This approach is already in effect in the United States regarding the manufacture and sale of alcoholic beverages. You see it where one county that bans alcoholic beverages sits right next to one that doesn't. If someone wants an abortion and she lives in a community that bans it, then move to or at least travel to one that doesn't. It will be a lot less controversial for a community in favor of abortion rights to police itself against protesters from neighboring communities. Finally, as regarding the matter of gun control, I have a suggestion for the United States where this debate is the most rancorous.
When you look at America's history of the Revolutionary War that gave it its independence from Britain, and also the need for weapons to survive in the Wild West, it's no surprise that you will never in a million years take firearms of any kind away from law-abiding citizens. And why would left-wingers want to do that anyway? Law-abiding citizens are not the problem. Criminals, terrorists, and violently insane people are. I have a suggestion, but first take a look at the Constitution of the United States, in particular the Second Amendment. Don't worry, it's short. It reads, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed."
The phrase, "a well-regulated militia," is extremely important. It can easily be interpreted as meaning that the right to bear arms applies to an official citizen's army like the National Guard and not to the average Joe.
Here's the compromise. For right-wingers, remove the phrase regarding a well-regulated militia, thus eliminating any doubt about whether the right to bear arms extends to the average citizen. And in return, liberals get to write in an exclusion for those with criminal or violent psychological histories, and especially for terrorists. This would have to be done by an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Yes, that takes a long time to get the high level of approval from the U.S. Congress and a majority of state governments, but it would enable legislation permitting background checks for terrorist, criminal, or psychologically violent behavior.
A few last words. I fully understand that this rant will have zero impact on the world. What it will do, thanks to YouTube, is allow me to achieve my goal of being a visible part of the discussion, no matter how small that part is, as opposed to being part of the problem. I hope you will think about what I've said. Thank you for listening, and take care.
Donald, you're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.